What's up, everyone out there in YouTube land? It's me, Perry Lovewhistle, and I'm back on Acadian in Project Quarm. And I'm currently running back across West Karanas because I just got level 15. It has been a very eventful week, and I actually got most of those events on camera. So for a quick recap of everything that has happened since the last episode, because this is largely a leveling episode. Not really any exciting quests to go on between levels 8 and 16. But when we left off, I was still fighting Eliel Brook. I managed to level on Eliel Brook up until level 11. That is the point where he turned light blue, which is also the point in Project Quarm where when you die, you leave a corpse. So you actually have to run without any equipment back to where you died to recover all of your stuff. So that was the first challenge I sort of ran into, was trying to find somewhere to level up at level 11 that wasn't too far away from Iridan. I did end up just fighting odds and ends monsters between Toxulia Forest and Karanas Hills, and eventually made it to level 12. Level 12 is a really big deal for caster classes because that's when you get the spell Bind Affinity, which means I can bind myself almost anywhere. There are restrictions on that based on dungeons and some other situations, but mostly casters can bind themselves anywhere, which is very convenient. I can bind anyone else in city zones, and again, there's other exceptions to that rule. The big part about that is I can change my respawn point to somewhere that's closer to where I'm fighting. So the very first thing I did at level 12 was bind myself right at the Karanas gates, which meant that I could fight in Karanas Hills, which I was still managing to find some bears and some wisps who conned dark blue to me to get me up until level 13, which is when I started moving into the West Karanas and fighting bandits. Now, the great thing about bandits is not only are they great experience and good faction if you're not from Karanas or Surefall Glade, the faction you get from bandits makes everyone around here like you more, so you can actually vendor in the Karanas. But they also drop bandit sashes as well as bronze weapons, and you can turn in those bandit sashes in Karanas for more experience and more bronze weapons. So I managed between levels 13 and early on 14 finding bandit groups to get enough money to buy the rest of my level 12 spells, a couple of my level 8 spells that I had actually skipped, because I figured, what the heck, and also pay for a Stein of Magok. I did the quest for this item on another playthrough that I only had a couple episodes of. It is a quest that is very difficult for anyone but an enchanter to do, but an enchanter can do it at like level 8. So, which is great for a new server. It means that there's lots of young enchanters who are able to do this quest for this item, sell it, which makes them money, and also gets a nice 10 intelligence primary or secondary item. This makes a significant change to my mana when I put on my Stein of Magok and increase my intelligence by 10. I also managed to catch a traveling jeweler on their way through the Karanas and buy the low-level intelligence ring and the low-level intelligence necklace with a little bit of my extra plat. And afterwards, I still have 70 platinum to purchase my level 16 spells with. So the Stein of Magok, by the way, was for sale in the Common Lands for 90 platinum. I was in the Karanas. I was unable to get all the way over to the Common Lands to purchase it, but Sora, our guild leader, managed to scoop it up for me, travel all the way to High Pass Hold to transfer it to me, So I didn't have to make that treacherous run all on my own. So thank you, Sora, for doing me a favor. But now that I am level 15, it is time for me to head back to Kanos Hills because there is an NPC in Kanos Hills on Project Quarm that is a really rare spawn with a really rare drop on every other server in TLP, but Project Quarm made her a very common NPC with a very common drop that I really want. So I'm going to hop in here, see if I can find a group, and get in line for my glowing black stone. So in Kanos Hills, up around the undead ruins, which are in the northeast corner, somewhere around here, there is a gnome necromancer that spawns named Pizjin. On Project 1999 and even in TLP servers, she is a super rare spawn. She has a huge series of placeholders and a long respawn time, is rare among them, and even when she does spawn, the glowing black stone, which is an intelligence item, is a really rare drop. So hunting Pizjin is a whole hobby you could have. On Project Quarm, her respawn time is about 6 minutes. It's almost guaranteed that she's going to spawn every 6 minutes. And it's almost guaranteed that she's going to drop the glowing black stone. But there is still a series of respawn points that she could respawn at. So she should be up right now. I am just trying to find her. And she is level 13. And on Quarm, they put in code so you have to be level 15 to loot the glowing black stone. So it does drop regularly, in theory, about every 6 minutes, but you can't loot it unless you're level 15. Oh, she does only spawn at night, and it is noon, so let's run back to Kanos real quick, sell a little bit, and try and give away my old newbie ring and necklace, and come back. Well, it is now nearly Pizjin's spawning time, and there's someone else here for him, too. I think between the two of us, we'll be able to take her down on our own, if I can convince him to stick around and help me with mine. So a big thanks to Vonarus of Europa for helping me out. And there it is, my very first legacy item, the glowing black stone. 9 intelligence, 10 magic resist. This item is going to be with me for a while. Which means I have to get rid of my servant staff. After only one episode, it is finally over. Now I am going to stick around and help Vonarus get his, and then it's back to the grind. Alright, level 16 is a big game changer for wizards, for a lot of reasons. First, of course, I get a slew of new spells. My new direct damage spell, Flame Shock. My new self-buff shielding spell. I also get a bunch of utility spells. Heat Sight mitigates one of the 3 downsides to playing an Erudite. The other 2 being the terrible newbie zone, which I've already escaped, and the low agility that I talked about in the last episode, which I still haven't overcome. Heat Sight gives me Elven Infravision, so I can see better at night. Bind Sight allows you to see through the eyes of another mob without aggroing them. So this is a really useful spell to see into dungeons that I might make more use of in another video. Identify is a really useful spell, specifically if you're like me and you care more about the lore of the game. There are times when 2 items will seem identical unless you use the spell Identify, but it gives you more information about them. For instance, my glowing black stone identifies as Varsoon's Black Heart. Varsoon is another named NPC as part of the, that's actually part of the Paisjin placeholder cycle. Shield Skin is a damage absorber, which is really important as a wizard since I have been kiting solo for a couple of levels. If I don't put enough space between me and the mob and it manages to come up and hit me, if I have Shield Skin on, it won't actually interrupt my spell. It will get absorbed into the Shield Skin and I can actually continue casting, which will end a whole lot of frustration. I finally have a new Bolt spell. Bolts I didn't talk about in the last video, but they are incredibly useful because they are a projectile spell, so they ultimately are a direct damage, but there's a projectile, which means there is a time between when you finish casting and when it hits the mob. You can use that time to recover your casting time. And so if you pull with a bolt spell, you basically get a free cast of whatever other spell you want to use. So you can cast bolt and cast your direct damage and get like 2 free shots. But the most important level 16 spell is invisibility, which does exactly what you might think. It makes you disappear. Now I'm still here, but nobody can see me, which means they all con indifferent if they can't see me, so they don't either like me or hate me. This means I can run through hostile zones, as long as there's no undead in it, because undead can see through invisibility. I do have 2 other spells that I got at level 16, but they are research spells. As a pure intelligence caster, every group of spells from 16 on will include a couple of spells that I can't buy from a vendor. I have to make myself using a trade skill. I got that trade skill at level 16, so I can't actually use it until I get to a town and train it. And I am all the way out in North Karana. I don't have time to run back to Kanos and train my research skill. So I will talk more about research and get those 2 spells in the next video. Right now, I've got to get back out there and grind more XP on some beetles. In the next episode, I'm going to take advantage of my invisibility to head east over into the Freeport area and hopefully get another legacy item. Until next time, bye.